Hey, we're back. Welcome back to Progressively Yours Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm Dr. IMANI, Ma'at Kynes.
I'm Jay Bernard, Ma'at Kynes.
And Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a nice holiday season, whatever you did, even if you were just meditating in a room by yourself. I hope that it was productive and that it was good for you and healthy. And we have a wonderful, wonderful program lined up this evening. I know I always say that, but we really have a wonderful program lined up this evening with an amazing, talented person who I'm so fortunate to call a friend. But we're going to get to that in a minute. Bernard, you want to help us to decompress with the spiritual overview?
And it is my pleasure. We are so, again, delighted that you have joined to be with us. And as it is our ritual and tradition for our show, we like to begin by recognizing and honoring the ancestors. So I'd like to invite you, if you are open to participating, to take a moment to close your eyes. And I want to invite you just to take in three, what I refer to as three cleansing breaths, in and out through your nose, deep and full, as we begin. These words from Diana Cooper, The Golden Future. Your invitation to Earth. Earth is a special mystery school. The lessons and understandings offered are unique. You are amazingly blessed to receive the opportunity to be here, rejoicing in a rainbow, examining a butterfly, stroking a cat, touching a petal, smelling a flower, paddling in a stream, or playing with a child are sensations only available on Earth. When Lady Gaia invites you here, she reminds you that life on Earth is a unique opportunity. Be grateful for it. You are a spiritual being who has volunteered for this expedition. It is indeed for the ancestors that we have volunteered to be here on this journey. Ashe. Namaste. Amen.
Amen. We chose to be here, y'all. Okay. In some way, shape, or form, long before we were here in the physical, we said, we need to go back for another turn. You know, I believe that. I believe many of us have been here many, many, many times. In each lifetime, we come here for...
Or some realm.
Yeah. We come here for a specific mission or purpose. And the sad thing is that many people never really figure it out why they're here. And that is sad because some people are just kind of going day to day, going with the flow, as they say, just, doing the 9 to 5, collecting a paycheck, doing what they're told. And all of us have this creative spirit, this creative energy to do something, to give back something to the world. So we invite you to think about what your special thing is, because we have someone who is clearly tapped into what his special thing is. And I have just loved speaking with this gentleman over the years. His name is VanDorn Hinnant. And I'll just say he's an acclaimed artist. Most people associate him with sacred geometry. Some of you may not know what that is, so we'll make sure that we explore that in our discussion with him. VanDorn was born in Greensboro, North Carolina in 1953. VanDorn Hinnant received a Bachelor of Arts degree in art design from North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina, and studied sculpture at UNC Greensboro. He is a recipient of the 1993-1994 North Carolina Arts Council Artist Fellowship Award and has participated in art residencies at the Hambridge Center for the Arts and Sciences, Project Row Houses, Round 10, Penland School of Crafts. We can go on and on and on. National Arts Education Association and the Brandywine Workshop. He has just done so many amazing, amazing things. From 2007 through 2010, VanDorn taught a unique no-tech Mandela printmaking class at Duke University through the Usher Lifelong Learning Institute of the Department of Continuing Education. He has done sculpting. He's been consigned to do sculpting for a number of really important projects. We're going to let him talk about all of that. If I keep reading, I'm going to take up all of his time, and I don't want to do that because I want you to hear from the man himself. I see him smiling in the background. He's like, who's she talking about? You. Mr. VanDorn Hinnant, come on up to the stage and please join us.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hey, VanDorn, how are you? And
delighted to be here. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Yes.
Yes.
And, so, where do we begin?
Okay, hold up. We're gonna begin, and then that'll make it easier on you to just like let it flow. Okay.
Okay.
So we always start with Bernard's question. We like to give people a sense of who you were, who you are, your humble beginnings. I'm off screen.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm on screen now. Yes. Okay. Go ahead, Bernard.
Yeah. Well, first, again, VanDorn is. I feel like I already know you. It's my first time that we had verbal conversation, but I've heard, so much about you and some of the prints that you've emailed to IMANI. She forwarded to me, and actually a screensavers on my computer in my office. And I have about 2 or 3 that I rotate around just to help me center down before sometimes I'm meeting with clients. I've taken like 3 minutes, like between session, and just looked at the geometrical configuration and just am in awe, and I'm looking at each detail. So it is indeed an honor for me to be with you tonight on our show. Because one of the things I want to get into is have some conversation around mystery and the mystery around what feeds you spiritually as you are in tune with the artistic visions that you see. But first, just kind of free associate, nothing in particular that we're looking for, but can you just share with us the first, I always say 0 to 12 years of your life before you became who you are today, but the beginning started early on. And just tell us a few stories when you look back. What stands out about you, the little boy, growing up in your family, in the community, that comes to mind that you can share with us?
Well, if we had 3 or 4 hours, I would tell more of the story, but we don't. So I can start with this story that I tend to start with is I was born with memory. So when I say that, some people understand that right out the gate, some people don't. And I accept the fact that some people have an understanding of what those words mean, and some people find themselves in a quandary about what does it mean, born with memory. Well, with that, I was having a lot of amazing spiritual journeys, and as a baby, I was being taken on a bunch of fantastic voyages. Didn't find out who my escort was until I was in my early 20s. But and that was by way of seeing an image of this spiritual traveler and saying, "Oh, that's who was taking me on all of these fantastic voyages when I was a baby." But anyway, so my life is informed with a tremendous amount of memory. So that means memory of past incarnations and what have you. and lots of experiences. In fact, this very day, my dream state is so chock full of experience that it's like it rivals most of the entertainment that people access through different forms of media. I wake up in the mornings when I have time to talk to my wife about my dream experiences. And I tell her, look what was happening in this dream experience, and look what was happening in that dream experience. And it really is, my dream state experience is just as active as this physical dimension. Okay. And so, and that's very important to me, simply because I understand that there's continuity between what happens in this dimension and what happens in other dimensions.
Right.
So having been born with that memory, I was, as early as I could get my hands on a pencil, I was like 4 and 5 years old. I was trying to figure out, how do I record some of these visions that I was having? So when I got to be around the age of 13 or 14, I was given some instruments to use, some tools that people use to make marks and to do paintings and whatever. In particular, I was given a painting set. So I began to paint some of these visions. And these visions, I don't have any of them because I moved several times and they got left behind in my parents' house, and then they became exported rendered to the trash or registered to the trash. But anyway, I have lots of images from my early journey as an artist. I'm 70 years of age, and so I've been making what I call artwork since I was in my late teens. And that's another interesting dimension of my experience. I actually thought of myself as being a legitimate artist when I was actually in my late teens, early 20s. And my first exhibition of any relevance was at the North Carolina Museum of Art when I believe I was 29 years old, 28 or 29 years old. It was in 1980. So whatever that age was. I was included in a group exhibition that was curated by a Greensboro resident. Her name is Eva Hamlin Miller. So Eva Hamlin Miller was my neighbor. She lived at one end of Ross Avenue, and I lived at the other end of Ross Avenue. She was married to a dentist, but she was a guest curator for a group exhibition. And that was really where I got my start in terms of being fully committed to the process of labeling myself a visual artist. And so this long walk that I've been on has been an experience of transformation, because I did not begin as a visual artist thinking of myself as a mystic or even a metaphysical being. But that changed through the decades because of spiritual teachings that I encountered that were in alignment with what I knew at my soul, at my core. And so these spiritual teachings that I found myself affiliated with, or associated with, if I may, helped me to remember what I came here with, which was an awareness of this. I don't really want to try to talk about that, but let's just say that I have this interesting cosmological map that I navigate with, which is just a joy to experience, because it doesn't happen in time, it happens out of time, which means that it's happening all of the time. Okay. So, I have a lot of play with words. I talk about time as if it is, sometimes I talk about time as if it is my favorite enemy. And sometimes I speak of time as though it doesn't exist, but we know we can't have space without time.
Yeah.
So I have to give some credit to those of us who believe that we are moving from point A to point B to point C to point D on some curious thing called a timeline. In my estimation, that's a joke, but I don't want to, how do I say this, give anyone who's listening to me a cause to be flustered in response to my declarative statements about, time is not linear. But so we won't touch that. Hopefully we won't revisit that thought tonight. But
and you can if you want to. I mean, you've already dropped so many pearls. We could take what you said so far and break it down. So we're enjoying this. Hopefully people who are listening are enjoying. I mean, cosmological map. What's a cosmological map?
Well, a cosmological map just means what is your personal identification with the spiritual. Okay, what is your personal identification with the spiritual? What do you consider to be a spiritual dimension of your life, and how does that inform your every action? Yeah. So we have so many beautiful ancient spiritual teachings. All of them point in the same direction, and I'm going to say that direction that they're pointing to is here now, or either now here, if you will. And a lot of people who have been on the spiritual journey understand what those words mean when I say here now or now here. A lot of people are trapped in time, which is an inconvenient imprisonment of consciousness. And so, Bernard, what's fascinating about your statements earlier about looking at my work and using it as a screensaver, I tell people that these are actually alchemical formulas that actually can serve many purposes. It isn't my call in terms of what purpose these mandalas serve, but I do know from personal experience from many people's responses to the work that it has an impact upon their consciousness. And that is intentional on my part. I call myself a messenger. And, and I repeat that old line, I'm a messenger, don't shoot the messenger, please, because, one of the funny things about the human condition is that fear is the root cause of all suffering.
Right.
And so what's nested inside of that statement is the fear of being out of control. And so when people find themselves feeling as though they're out of control, they're looking for a way to get a grip on, what can I say? I can't say a grip on reality because that would not be a true statement. They're trying to get a grip on that which they cannot get a grip on. Right?
I get it.
Well, that's an interesting, paradoxical expression that comes from the mystical elements of, as the mystic Thurman would express, and because many of us, live solely in this third dimension, to get to that level of spiritual consciousness and awareness seems like it came easy for you, and yet for others it requires a lot of work and intentionality to begin to crack those dimensions from within.
Yes.
How do you respond to that?
Well, what happens is, I have been, I grew up in a system. I grew up in a family. Nobody in my family was familiar with anything that I was aware of as a child. When I talk about being aware of, I mean simply the mystical, the spiritual dimension. So I grew up in a family, mother, father, two brothers and a sister, grandparents, etc., aunts and uncles. None of the people around me were familiar with the spiritual territory that I was familiar with. So I was a stranger in a strange land. A few of the listeners will understand what that means because there is a book titled "A Stranger in a Strange Land." So it wasn't easy for me to be nested in this environment. So what I did is I survived it by pretending as best I could to be one of the others. Okay. In other words, I pretended to fit in.
Normal. Right.
I pretended to fit into what I have grown to call an insane asylum. And that's what I did. I just kept pretending, and I did it all of my life. I continue to do it. Every day I go out into the world, I'm pretending to fit in to what I conveniently call an insane asylum. And what I mean by that is simply that there are so many people living in a psycho-spiritual lockdown where they don't have the freedom to travel into the higher dimensions. Either they don't have it or they haven't claimed it. It might be true to say that they simply haven't claimed it. But whatever the case may be, we're all running programs that are determining our every experience. Okay, I could not make a more important statement tonight than to say that we are
say that again.
We're all
we are all running programs that determine our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so without the programs that are self-limiting, we wouldn't be able to self-limit. We wouldn't be able to cut ourselves off from the beauty and the grace that is available to us 24/7. Yes, but that good beauty and grace is available to us. We simply haven't broken free of the mechanism of the mass hypnosis that has been placed on humankind. You know, I can't tell you what the percentage is, but most of the people who are breathing are operating in a state of hypnosis, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Okay. And I call that mass hypnosis. It's an intentional program. And there are individuals like myself and others who are running around saying, you know, it really isn't necessary for you to hold on to that idea about what's right or what's wrong. It isn't necessary, you know. But once again, you know, we have these programs that have been put into place, and it is our responsibility as individuals to, how do I say this, to delete those faulty programs or faulty files and gain access to, well, let's just say, I don't know how to say this metaphorically and poetically, you know, delete the corrupt files. And what happens after you delete the corrupt files? Well, there's some space there, and it might be possible to experience in that space, once the corrupt files have been deleted, some beauty, some grace, you know, some deep love for oneself and for others.
Yeah, I want to add, go back to something you said near the beginning, as a pathway to kind of breaking part of this program, which requires work. And you expressed it by having conversations in the mornings with your wife about your dream. Dreams are so critical to that pathway, because the unconscious is I don't want to use too much clinical jargon, but the unconscious is that how most people are living their lives and never tap into allowing the dreams with all of the symbols found there within to speak to those programs and have someone to help them to even crack the symbols to help them understand more of who they truly are.
So there's some words here that we can interject. Pedestrian awareness, which would be, when I say pedestrian awareness, that's generally understood to be the state that we're in when we're awake in the physical body. Okay, and then I'm going to use a contrast to that and call it the celestial awareness. Okay.
Okay.
The celestial awareness would include what happens on the astral plane when we enter the realm of imagination and or the dream state. Because the astral plane is where we reside when we lay the physical body to rest and go into the dream state. Well, the dreams, they're higher dimensions than the astral plane, but let's not get into too many technicalities. Let's just say that we have this pedestrian awareness, that we're operating in this body, in this dimension, in this space-time continuum that we're talking in. And then there's this higher dimensional frequency that some people call the astral plane, some people call the dream world, and then there are other names for it. But that's where we can make a connection between that dimension or that quality of awareness and the quality of awareness that I spoke of a moment ago, called the pedestrian awareness. And when those two states of awareness begin a conscious dialogue, that's where life gets to be really interesting. Okay. And very exciting. Yes.
Very exciting.
It sounds like it. So you talked about spiritual images and messages coming through your work, and I'm wondering if there clearly is a connection between the dream state and those things that come to you, and you put them on canvas or whatever. Tell us a little bit about that process and show us some of your work.
And we have some of the work, so we can bring some on screen that you can talk about.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Bring some. Let's load some images, please, so that we can talk
Hey,
about them.
Toya.
Somebody's back there
Yeah.
who will load.
And it doesn't matter what images you choose, because whatever images you choose, we can talk about that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I gave.
Yes. Go ahead. Continue.
One of the interesting stories that I wanted to talk about was what happened to me as after I became a member of an organization called the National Alliance of Artists from HBCUs. Because prior to that initiation, I will call it, I was an artist who was committed to a certain kind of vision that I had been walking with all of my life. And that terminology that has been used in the world is abstraction. And one of the things that I have stated is that my works are not abstractions. They are representations of different qualities of consciousness and different states of consciousness. So I make a distinction there. Like when I moved to New York City in '81, I was attempting to become integrated into the art scene. So I took some of my paintings in. Okay, there's an image, right? So in the background, well, let me finish telling this story because this is important. I took one of my images into a gallery, and the young person who was working there suggested to me that we do not represent artists that are doing decorative art. And I said, okay, thank you. And I left. Now, the work was not decorative. It was simply decades ahead of its time. And so, and I won't go into the story of how many efforts I have made to present my work to the world where somebody that was awake could say, I see what he is doing. This is relevant now. My wife, Anna Maria, went to California right after we met one another in 2002. She took a portfolio of my images out with her, and there was a seasoned art dealer who was about to end her career as an art handler, right? An art dealer. And she said to my wife, she says, this man's work is so important, so valuable. I don't know the exact words, but she said, if I was going to remain in the game, I would represent him. But she was ready to close her shop down. She had been in this game for decades, you know. So I was, you know, is this thing that's popping up on the right hand side? Okay, I don't quite know what that is. Oh, okay, something very strange has happened. I have no explanation for it except to say that I'm going to close that, and I'm going to figure out how to get back.
We'll get some more of your artwork.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to get back to our. I'm lost now because I can't see you.
And see us?
We hear you though.
We hear you and we see you, so you're good on this end.
I believe that, but my challenge is that I can't see anything but these things on the screen that are, okay, here I am. I'm back now. Okay, wonderful.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so much for that story. That's an interesting aside. Let us swim back to that image that popped up on the screen. That was actually the first image that I sent. In the background of that image, can we get it back?
Toya, can you bring that up, please? Seems like there's a little bit of delay or something going on.
All right. So anyway, you know, that was heartbreaking for me to learn that an art dealer in California wanted to see my work represented, but she wasn't in a position to do it herself. Okay, so this image is actually in this book. Can we go back one frame to the prior frame?
Previous one.
Yes, that's the cover of the third book that is attributed to me. Love, Opera House of the Soul. The title was given to me 30 some years ago, maybe 35 years ago. And I sat with that title all of these years, and then discovered when I got ready to publish it in March of this year that the title had not been taken by anyone else. And so it became the title of my book. You know, the image that's on the front of the cover is titled Before We Knew, from the Mother of Everything. And so this book has, I think, 112 pages. It has 53 images, and the other pages are filled with poems and metaphysical musings and quotable quotes. And so it's volume 1. There is a volume 2 that's forthcoming. I simply haven't assembled it so that it can be published yet, but I'm excited about volume 2. I'm not sure the cover is going to remain the same, but anyway, can we show some different images now?
Yes, just give her a second.
All right. Yes, so these are 2 views of the same form. Yeah. The name of it is A Study for a Monument to Love. This is made out of wood. It's 4 feet tall. It has traveled around the United States and been presented here and there in group exhibitions. The story behind this work is that the piece that came before this, which we do not have an image of, which is 42 inches tall, was first featured in a group exhibition at the Hampton University galleries in Hampton, Virginia. And so the piece that precedes this is titled Stand. And it looks very similar to this. It just isn't as tall. So the piece that I'm talking about, Stand, is 42 inches tall, and this is 48 inches tall. But they're made out of the same types of triangles. And so you have the same type of base, and you have the same type of section above the base. Those 3 concentric circles are actually come from a group of patterns that are called Adinkra symbols. And my personal interpretation of those 3 concentric circles is that it talks about the all-powerful, all-being, and all-present quality of what we call God, or the all that is. And those 2, well, there are 3 different types of triangles there, but the base is made out of equilateral triangles. The other triangles are isosceles triangles. Those are the triangles that have to do with the golden proportion. So we wanted to talk about sacred geometry. We can begin here, because the triangle is the first form, the first flat form that you can make that has, I guess you might say, volume, if I may use, then that's the right area, has an area. The first form that you can make out of straight lines is a triangle. This happens to be an equilateral triangle. And from there, you make other shapes. You can go into 4-sided shapes, which are either called squares, rectangles, or rhombuses. But the other 2 triangles that are in the sculpture are the golden triangle. You have the tall golden triangle, and then I have the other one that I call the squat golden triangle. And what I mean by golden triangle is the proportion that's throughout the human body is the same proportion that is throughout everything that grows in nature. So this is something that most people are not familiar with, but there's something called the golden ratio, which is also called the golden proportion, which is also called the divine proportion, which is also called the golden mean. All of those mean the same thing. MEAN, golden MEAN. So the golden measure. So what that is if you take your digits in your hand, and your smallest bone in your hand is the bone from the tip of your finger to the first joint. And if we were to say that length of that bone is 0.618 inches, then the bone next to it would be 1 inch. And the next bone to it that connects to the knuckle would be 2.618. And then the next bone, which is in your hand, would be an addition of 1.618 plus 2.618. And we have this golden proportion throughout the human body. We have it in everything that grows in nature. And I really mean everything, okay? There is nothing that grows in nature that does not have the golden proportion in it. So from a metaphysical vantage point, some of us understand that it has to do with the nature of the invisible forces that inform the physical dimension in terms of where the atoms are supposed to align and congeal, if I may. So we have this invisible force that we call the etheric force. And the etheric force is actually the informant of the physical matter, if I may. So that's my explanation for how it is that we have the golden proportion throughout nature. It has to do with this invisible force, this etheric force that is the informing force of what manifests in the physical dimension.
So you see it in plants and in crystals and, things like that, everything.
Everything that you look at that comes from nature has the golden proportion in it. and it is impossible for it not to have the golden proportion in it,
Hmm.
simply because the spiritual law is what I just stated. The
Mhm.
the material world is informed by an invisible force, and some
Mhm.
of us call it the etheric force. But it's a blueprint of
Mhm.
of what happens here.
Mhm.
So anyway,
So, so,
that's. Go
mhm.
ahead.
So how have different cultures, I know you've done a lot with African culture and history and forms and shapes. How have certain traditions in Africa, say, used the golden proportion?
Well, the beautiful thing is that it is naturally occurring in what we make. In other words, the human is naturally predisposed to manifest the golden proportion in what they make. Okay,
Mhm.
and we could talk about that as being having to do with the intuitive aspect, but okay, like in music, like in sound, sound also has the golden proportion in it too, the golden ratio. And
Mhm.
but I'm not a musician, and I can't talk about that. If we had what's his name, John Coltrane here, we might be able to engage him in a conversation about this because he understood this, and many musicians understood this. If we had Nelson Harrison on the call tonight, he might be able to speak to that, but I cannot speak to the golden proportion in sound, but we experience it because if we hear a pleasant sound,
Mhm.
especially a combination of pleasant sounds, we can rest assured that the golden proportion is in there. But
Mhm.
once again, I'm not, so like the pentatonic scale, it's just, I just want to, this is a brief aside. The pentatonic scale are the black notes on the keys of a piano. And the pentatonic scale is what the people from Africa brought with them to the Americas as their I don't know how to say this, the sounds that they were making, the vast majority of the sounds that the Africans were making when
Mhm.
they came here, especially in chants and whatever you want to call them, were from the pentatonic scale. And the golden proportion can be found there also. But in the physical dimension, we look at Egypt as being a repository of information and knowledge, and we look at the Giza pyramids. There's some other pyramids in Africa that I learned about close to 20 years ago, maybe, and these were made by the Nubians. Okay, and turns out that these pyramids have the same triangle on them that the sculpture that you're looking at on this screen. Look,
Mhm.
look at the sculpture. Look at the triangle that's at the top, the dark brown triangle that's at the top.
Right.
Maybe we can focus in on that because we can't see it too well. If we
Oh, okay.
can jump to
Can
the
we?
screen with you and you duck down a little bit. Or,
Oh,
well, I thought you were talking about the pyramid behind you. You're talking about on here?
oh no. Well, the pyramid behind me is the same pyramid that the Nubians made in Africa. Uh, but that pyramid is an open pyramid. It isn't closed. So
Mhm.
so so, so it's simply informed by um, four lines, four strips of wood that are 8 feet long, and the base is 5 feet square. So you have a 5 foot square base and four struts that go up that are 8 feet long. And so 5 by 8 golden triangle is a very close to to what we call a golden triangle. So so those of us who work with the golden proportion will take the number 5 and 8, or we'll take the number 8 and 13, or we'll take the number 13 and 21 as the short and the long edge of a golden triangle. Okay,
Mhm.
and simply because it's a very close approximation, and so close that there's no reason to be concerned about any greater sense of accuracy. But the image that I'm talking about is simply, and when I say image, I'm talking about this golden triangle. That golden triangle has been found in some pyramids that still exist. The tops have been blown off or whatever. No thanks to the visitors. But
Mhm.
the, it's evident that the pyramids had the golden triangle as its side. And in Russia, there's been a tremendous amount of research over the last 40 years that has uh, made it possible for us modern folk to be able to see the effects that one can experience as a result of being under this type of pyramid. This what I call a golden pyramid. But let's not spend too much time on that subject. That's another hour's talk in and of itself. Okay. Yes. So can we have another image, please? Okay. Interesting. Now, I wrote a small dissertation on this, which I wasn't sure. I actually don't have it queued up, but a friend of mine asked me about this. You might be able to see the word "I" at the top and then the word "am" at the bottom.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, right. I see it.
Yeah, and so some of us in the metaphysical community have a sense of identification with the term "I am," and I don't want to talk about that. That's asking too much of some of the audience. I'm going to suggest that. So anyway, this diagram actually speaks volumes as a diagram that talks about the first, how do we say this? The first proposition 1 in Euclid's Elements, proposition 1, book 1, asks, given 2 points in a plane, construct an equilateral triangle. Well, it turns out that when you place 2 points on a plane and you draw 2 circles using the 2 points as the center of one circle and the circumference of the first circle, and then you go back to the other circle or the center of the other point, and you draw another circle. Those 2 circles that share a radius are the beginning of this complexity that I have built out in much of my sacred geometry artwork. It begins with 2 circles that share a radius. And when you do that, you can create 2 equilateral triangles. And when you create those 2 equilateral triangles, one is pointing upward and one is pointing downward. So in this diagram, I do not have the equilateral triangles drawn in, but I have the circles. I have the circles on 2 scales. A smaller set of circles that you see in the center, which are color-coded blue and red, and part of it is blue and part of it is red. And then you have a larger set of 2 circles that are color-coded with blue and red. So that's a very, very, very small composition. The original is, which was gifted to a dear friend of mine, and it is a composition that I suggest to myself and others. Once again, it's an alchemical formula, which is reminding the pedestrian awareness of a spiritual principle, and that spiritual principle has to do with the notion of equal. Okay, wherever you place 2 circles in relation to one another and they share a radius, that's a statement about equal. And so it's telling the subconscious mind that this is an important statement that's being made. Now, the conscious mind might not get it, but the subconscious mind gets it. So we're going to go back to what was said earlier. Our job might be to find a way to bridge the gap between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, or the unconscious mind, if you want to use that term. Yeah. And when we bridge that gap, we have awakened in the dream. And when we awaken in the dream, we're no longer pawns on a chessboard. We are sovereign beings, and we cannot be manipulated. Okay.
You said a lot right there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the invitation, the challenge, and the possibility, Spears, of trying to invite and others to not to be afraid of the subconscious, unconscious, and allow it to become integrated one with the conscious mind to tap into the spiritual dimensions that you have so beautifully and adequately expressed to us tonight through the work.
And just the creative juices, how they flow. I mean, you're such a good example of that, you know, having tapped into the dream state from when you were an infant and understanding that, you know, things were coming through you and not letting it scare you, but letting it empower you, if you will, you know, which is a whole different sphere.
Yeah. Growing into this experience has been a 70-year-long journey. Okay. And so, you know, I am not the same person that I was 5 months ago, or 5 years ago, or 5 decades ago. I am not the same person. I have been constantly being upgraded, transformed. Both of those words are applicable here.
Yes.
And I would not be able to speak one without the other one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
transformed / upgraded. And so now, you know, I've arrived at the state of understanding that my life is a life of service. And so, you know, I was speaking to a fellow that's my elder by a few years. He's from Barbados and he lives in Brooklyn. And he and I were chatting it up earlier today. And I was suggesting to him or reminding him that we are here to serve. And
Yeah.
so, and so inside of that notion of being here to serve is the notion of sharing the wealth. So whatever gifts that have been bestowed upon me, they don't belong to me. They belong to anyone that I come in contact with in terms of this notion of sharing the wealth. So it's important for me to walk in that clarity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we are like actually running out of time. I want to make sure that we put some information up there so people know how to access your books, know how to get closer to you if they have. And we can also have time for questions too. But we can
Well,
ask.
please, while we're doing all of that, just the rest of the time that we have, just whoever's managing the images, just scroll through the images slowly and let them stay up for so many seconds, please.
Oh, great. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So she's got your light weavings.
That's a diptych that was created at Brandywine Workshop in Philadelphia in 1994. The title of that is A Duet for Carmen and Dizzy. So the image on the right-hand side actually represents, it's an abstraction. It represents Carmen McRae singing, hitting a high note. And then on the other side, the left side of the composition is an image that represents Dizzy Gillespie playing his horn. And so they were connected with one another. They performed together while they were living. And that's where that image came from. So it's an abstract representation of a dialogue between two humans.
Mm.
Yeah.
Two
So
very creative and talented humans. Wow. What is this one here?
Yeah. And so that one has several names. Anyway, it's a twin star composition, and it's actually related to the very first image that we flashed on the screen, which we didn't talk about. But anyway, red and blue. When you mix them, you get purple. So when I play with this notion of the insanity that's going on in North America, the blue team and the red team, when we talk about politics, well, what do you get when you mix them together? You get the color purple. So I say that this composition is about the marriage of the blues and the reds, you know, speaking poetically and metaphorically here, and that marriage, that synthesis gives us the color purple. So I'm suggesting that this is sort of like a presaging a condition that we may find ourselves in as a collective in America when we wake up and realize there's no one over there to fight and no one over there to call our enemy. And that can only happen when enough of us become free and unencumbered from the mass hypnosis that has been brought about by centuries of programming. But those of us who are awake in the matrix are suggesting both in every way imaginable. We're suggesting that others can become free and unencumbered from the hypnosis and recognize that I am another yourself. Whoever I'm sitting across from, I am another yourself. And that's what's necessary for us to actually go forward as a species. So can we show some?
That's what Namaste is all about. The divine in me sees the divine in you.
Exactly.
You know, so we're really one, and it's just an illusion that we're all separate and all different things and different cultures, different religions. I mean, that's seems like that's something that was put on us that as part of the matrix that we had to kind of weave our way out of.
That was designed to divide and conquer.
Right.
But we our job is to reunite as an informed group of humans who will not rent space out in our hearts and minds any longer, and be tricked into believing that there's an enemy over there someplace.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can we show some images?
Want another image? I know we're squeeze in as many as we. Oh gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. That's it. All of these images are in the book, okay? And so the book was just published in March, and I'm getting ready to do some advertising now so that the book can actually reach a larger audience. But I wanted to show a few, and all of the writing on the page is my writing. So every page of the book is filled with my writings and my images from several decades of working, maybe 4 decades actually. But can we show some more, please? That has to do with duality. That's another variation on the theme yin yang. So was the one right before it. The yin yang,
the red and the blue again.
The polar
too.
opposites, right? The polar opposites, right?
And the purple.
Yes.
And the purple, right?
And this is fractal paradigm. Yes, we Ken Kelleher House in New York City owns this particular piece. It was in a group exhibition in 2005. Yeah, and it has to do with the term fractal. Yes. Next, please. Okay, and this is a fractal image also. So each one of those right triangles is the very same triangle at a smaller scale. So you have blue, 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 blue. I think there are 4 or 5 of each triangle. Yellow, 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 maybe 5 of them. And then red, 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 red. Each one of those triangles has the very same shape. They're just at a smaller scale and they're ratcheting towards the center. So you have this sense of this spiraling motion to the center. But that's actually a computer. When I say computer, it's a nature's numbers computer, which we don't have time to talk about. But that's in the book, The Rest of Euclid. When I say that information that I just spoke about fractal mathematics is in the book, The Rest of Euclid. And that's the second book that is attributed, well, which has my name connected to it. I'm a co-author. Can we show some more images? That's just a poem. That's a word form. So it kind of looks like a vessel. And I've written dozens of word forms. And so I have a few of those in the book. Next image, please. One of my favorite mandalas. On the outside is the word sacred. So you see SACRED starting at the top, and then LOVE in white letters that are brighter. And then in the middle, I think maybe sacred love are the only 2 words on there. But anyway, yeah. That's next image, please. So I forgot what's in there. Can anyone read that?
I remember seeing that one a long time ago, VanDorn.
You've received a lot of images from me.
yes. Oh, I love that. This is one of my favorites. I can't read it from here.
Okay. There is an intelligence that lives in the heart. Some call it love. That's
okay. Thank you for reading it. Next, please.
And that's the Sankofa. That's the Sankofa symbol. Did you recognize it? Yes.
Go back, because that's who we are, Sankofa. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So let's run through more. I actually have another one in here. There's a Sankofa symbol also. Can we run some more? Yeah.
That's one of the images on our wedding bands.
Right.
Yes.
Just as that.
Yep. There is.
Wow. I won't talk about this one. This one's titled Language. So let's keep going. Yeah. And there's the one.
That was the original one, right?
Yeah. Right. And next, please.
That's my screensaver.
Yes.
Okay. Nice.
This is one of my favorite paintings. I have so many of them, but this one's titled Shaman's Dream. And so that form actually represents a house sitting on the earth, and you have a door. The blue rectangle is a door, and the dark blue rectangle is a door, and the light blue rectangle is a window. And it's a metaphysical statement. It's about what happens in the dream state when we travel in our dreams. That's what that image is about. Yes. Next image, please. And another alchemical formula. What happens with some people is when they see these, it actually opens a portal of awareness, and then they find themselves having aha moments. And it's happened over and over again. So some people have conscious aha moments. Some people have aha moments of the subconscious. And then something happens and they say, something has shifted in my awareness. But they can't make a connection between having seen the image and having had this awakening, but that's what has happened. A number of people have had spontaneous healings just witnessing some of these compositions.
Yeah. I want to ask our producers to put up the book name and title again. Can people get it on Amazon, or is that the best place?
It is available on Amazon. I have some copies myself, but it can also be purchased at Amazon. Right.
We'll get it from you because we'll get an autographed copy. How's that?
Right, exactly.
Okay. Okay. Maybe Toya, can you put it up? And we are actually going to have to sign up, and we're actually going to have you come. Is this the newest book? No,
that's the first book.
That's
Yes.
the first one.
And that can be found on lightweavings.com. All of these books can be found on lightweavings.com.
Okay.
lightweavings.com. Go to that website. You can find all three of these books referenced there. Okay.
VanDorn, we have to end the show because we've done our hour. And of course, we have to have you come back for part 2 because I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface this evening.
That is true. We barely scratched the surface, but thank you. Great to be here.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Yes.
And my love to Anna Maria. Please tell her I said hello.
I'll be sure to tell her. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Peace
All right.
and blessings.
Peace and blessings always. Thank you. All right.
All right. Thank you, audience, for tuning in.